The Old Bay Filet-O-Fish was a McDonald's Filet-O-Fish with Old Bay tartar sauce on it. It showed up, people loved it, people begged for it to stay, and then, poof, gone. No explanation, no memorial, no paper-thin napkin to wipe your greasy hands and dry your tears. Which is why today we're going to figure out what happened to McDonald's Old Bay Filet-O-Fish. But before we dive into this salty mystery, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other MIA fast food items you would like to hear about. All right, grab your tiny fish sandwich, because we're diving in. First, we need to talk about the original Filet-O-Fish, because it's basically the reason McDonald's realized it could be more than just hamburgers and a convenient place for travelers to stop at the bathroom. The story starts in 1962, when a McDonald's franchise owner named Lou Groen was running a location in Montford Heights, a predominantly Catholic neighborhood in Cincinnati, Ohio. On Fridays, especially during Lent, his customers were not buying meat, which is kind of a problem when your entire business model is meat on bread. So Groen did something revolutionary. He listened to the market, not a focus group, not a brand consultant, not a guy with a whiteboard and too much confidence. Just the literal customers standing there like, "We can't eat beef today, Lou." And that's how the Filet-O-Fish was born. It then went on to become the first non-hamburger item to truly break through on McDonald's menu. And it famously beat out Ray Kroc's competing meatless option, the Hula Burger. Which, if you've never heard of it, imagine a bun with a slice of grilled pineapple and cheese. And just try not to scream. We'll get back to that though. Over time, the Filet-O-Fish became a weird little legend. People either love it or deeply fear it, kinda making it the Nickelback of McDonald's sandwiches. But it stuck around, especially during Lent, when roughly 23 to 25% of all Filet-O-Fish sales happen in a matter of weeks. Every year, millions of people rediscover it like it's a limited Taylor Swift vinyl drop, and they just remembered they had a record player. And that brings us to the glow-up nobody expected. In early 2015, McDonald's rolled out a limited-time Old Bay Filet-O-Fish at more than 700 locations across the mid-Atlantic states, including Delaware, Maryland, Washington, D.C., West Virginia, and Virginia. This wasn't random. It was strategic regional pandering at its absolute finest. And that is a compliment. The sandwich was created in partnership with McCormick & Company, the makers of Old Bay seasoning. And that partnership makes total sense, because Old Bay has always been considered a natural seasoning for seafood. And if you've ever spent 5 minutes in Maryland, you know that people there will put Old Bay on anything that holds still long enough. Crabs, obviously, but also fries, popcorn, rims of Bloody Marys, probably their children's foreheads. It's a lifestyle. Now, here's the part that should feel familiar. Just like the original Filet-O-Fish, the Old Bay version was born from the mind of a franchise owner. His name was Mark Furr, a Maryland franchisee operating locations in Baltimore and D.C. Furr pitched the concept as a way to bring a true local taste to customers and compared Old Bay's presence in Baltimore to salt and pepper on our tables. Not a metaphor. That's literally how people live in that city. So, what exactly was the sandwich? A Filet-O-Fish with Old Bay tartar sauce. Not a dusting of seasoning on top. Not a hint of spice. Not a little whisper of flavor that disappears before it reaches your tongue. The Old Bay was infused directly into the tartar sauce, which is the correct way to do it. Because if you're going to commit to Old Bay, you commit fully, like you're getting a tattoo of a crab wearing sunglasses. And the reaction? Electric. Over 1 million sandwiches were sold during the initial run. Let that sink in. That's not a quirky regional test. That's a culinary event. Customers flooded McDonald's social media, demanding the sandwich go nationwide. They wanted it permanent. They wanted it forever. Some people started lobbying, genuinely lobbying, for Old Bay McNuggets. Old Bay fries, Old Bay McFlurries. Once you give Mid-Atlantic people Old Bay somewhere unexpected, they immediately act like you owe them Old Bay everywhere forever. It's not unreasonable. It's just who they are. Ed Hernandez, the Old Bay brand manager at McCormick at the time, described the flavor as zesty, which is corporate speak for, we're not allowed to say this slaps, but it absolutely does. And flavor-wise, it tracks. Old Bay is a blend of celery salt, paprika, black pepper, red pepper, and a mix of other spices that create warmth, depth, and a savory kick. Now, you blend that into tartar sauce, and, well, you're essentially making a condiment that solves the Filet-O-Fish's biggest problem, which is that people feel it tastes like it needs a personality. The Old Bay version gave it one. So naturally, you'd assume a product that sold over 1 million units, generated massive social buzz, and had customers actively begging for it would become a permanent menu item, right? Well, not so much. In fact, after that initial run, the Old Bay Filet-O-Fish disappeared. McDonald's has never given a clear, detailed public explanation for why it didn't return as a permanent national item. Some sources suggest it popped up again seasonally for a short window, with its last possible appearance somewhere around 2017, but it never became a staple. And today, it exists mostly as a memory, a rumor, and a small, salty wound that Mid-Atlantic residents carry around in their hearts. But if history teaches us anything, and the jury is still out on that, this is just how it sometimes goes with McDonald's regional test items. To understand why a well-liked, well-selling item can simply vanish, you have to understand how McDonald's tests new menu items in the first place. McDonald's does not just throw things at the menu because someone at corporate had a dream. They test things with the methodical precision of a pharmaceutical company, except instead of curing disease, they're trying to cure boredom at the drive-thru. Here's how it generally works. Step 1. Concept development. It starts with trend research, customer data, competitor analysis, and cultural preferences. McDonald's wants to know what people want, what they'll pay for, and what they're already making at home at 2 a.m. while wishing a fast food chain would just do it for them. Step 2. Recipe development. The concept moves into test kitchens, where culinary teams work on flavor, ingredients, and operational feasibility. Because here's the thing, McDonald's can love a food item, but if it takes more than a few seconds to assemble, it becomes a liability. The kitchen teams have to ask the all-important questions. Can it be made fast? Can it be made consistently? Does it require new equipment, new training? Does it increase the chance that someone has an emotional breakdown at the fry station? These are real questions. Step 3. Small-scale regional trials. If the item passes the kitchen test, it goes out to select markets. McDonald's picks regions based on demographic fit, cultural relevance, or sometimes just vibes. And then they watch. They track sales, monitor social media, collect customer feedback, and basically treat an entire region of the country like unpaid interns in a very delicious experiment. Step 4. Adjust and expand. If the regional test works, they refine the product and potentially expand to more areas. If it doesn't, they either cut it or quietly shelve it until they need a nostalgia cash grab a decade later. Step 5. National launch or a quiet funeral. If an item is a hit and scalable, meaning it can be produced efficiently, sourced consistently, and executed correctly across 14,000 plus U.S. locations, it can go national. If it can't clear that bar, it gets taken behind the shed, lovingly but firmly. Regional success is not a guarantee of anything. An item can sell great in one area and be completely irrelevant somewhere else. And that brings us to the broader story, because McDonald's has been running these regional experiments on us for decades, and the graveyard of test items that never made it is extensive. McDonald's has tested so many things over the years that at this point, their menu history reads like a corporate fever dream diary. Here are some of the most notable regional test items that came, confused people, and quietly left. We have to start with a hula burger, because this is the item that lost to the Filet-O-Fish and cemented Lou Groen's legacy. Ray Kroc's answer to the Catholic customer on Friday's problem was the hula burger, a bun with a slice of grilled pineapple and cheese. That's it. That was the pitch. What if we gave them fruit? These two items went head-to-head on a Friday in 1962. Groen's fish sandwich sold 350 units. The hula burger sold 6. That's not a loss. That's a restraining order. It's a result so lopsided that hula burger became basically shorthand for what happens when you don't ask anyone if they actually want this. Long story short, the hula burger disappeared immediately, and it proved a truth that still applies today. If you tell Americans they're getting a burger and then hand them warm fruit, they will not forgive you. McDonald's has attempted hot dogs multiple times over the years, with tests in parts of the Midwest during the mid-1990s. But here's the wild part. Ray Kroc himself was vocally opposed to the idea while he was alive. He reportedly said that there was no telling what's inside a hot dog's skin, and that McDonald's quality standards would not permit it, which is a remarkable sentence coming from the guy who ran the company that serves the mystery meat known as the McRib. The hot dog tests never took off. The verdict from customers seemed to be, why would I get a hot dog at McDonald's when I can get a burger? It's not a damning critique. It's just a reasonable question that the hot dog had no good answer for. In 2003, McDonald's tested a crab cake sandwich in mid-Atlantic markets, the same region that would later go wild for the Old Bay Filet-O-Fish. The thinking was logical. Maryland and Virginia love crab. McDonald's makes sandwiches. Let's connect the dots. The problem? You cannot sell a region-famous food to the people who invented that food's culture and expect them to be impressed. Maryland crab cake people have extremely strong opinions about crab cakes. They have family recipes. They have childhood memories. They have a specific shack on the water that they've been going to since the day they were born, and they will defend it physically. A McDonald's crab cake was never going to compete with that. The McCrab faded away quietly, having learned that some regional foods are regional precisely because locals take them personally. Tested around 1979, this was essentially a longer burger patty served with onions and steak sauce on a hoagie-style roll. It's like McDonald's looked at their menu and said, what if we had something with a little more ambition? The chopped beefsteak sandwich sounds, on paper, like it could work. In practice, it was a product that didn't quite fit the McDonald's identity. It felt too fancy to feel fast, not fancy enough to justify its own existence. It never went national, and today it lives on mostly as a footnote in McDonald's history that makes people say, wait, was that real? Yep, you heard that right. In the late 1970s and into the 1980s, McDonald's tested pasta because apparently someone looked at a burger and fries operation and thought, you know what this needs? Noodles. McSpaghetti was a real thing. It was spaghetti with meat sauce, served in a little container, available at select locations. It did not take off broadly in the United States for a combination of reasons. It was operationally complicated. It didn't fit McDonald's kitchen workflow. And perhaps most importantly, nobody particularly wants to eat spaghetti in a car, unless you're actively trying to ruin a shirt you hate. McSpaghetti did survive internationally, and it's still on the menu in the Philippines, where it's a genuine beloved cultural institution, served with a slightly sweet tomato sauce. But in the US, it came, it sauced, it failed to conquer. Introduced in the late 1970s, onion nuggets were essentially the inside of an onion ring. It was fried, battered onion pieces in nugget form. The idea predates Chicken McNuggets by a few years, which means onion nuggets were technically the original nugget concept at McDonald's, but they got absolutely pummeled by the chicken. They disappeared so completely that McDonald's archivists have noted that many people within the company itself have never seen them. Imagine working at McDonald's corporate and someone whispers, there were onion nuggets once. That's not a product discontinuation, that's a ghost story. By now, the pattern is pretty clear. McDonald's tests things constantly, regionally, and with no particular obligation to keep them around, even when people love them. So why did the Old Bay Filet-O-Fish disappear despite selling over 1 million sandwiches and generating enormous customer demand? McDonald's never gave a clear public reason, so it can't be said definitively. But based on how their testing model works, a few factors likely played in. First, Old Bay is deeply regional. It's beloved in the Mid-Atlantic. Outside that area, it's known, but not a daily driver seasoning the way it is in Maryland. A national rollout only makes sense if the demand is strong enough in markets that don't have an emotional relationship with the stuff. In some parts of the country, Old Bay might as well be that crab spice my cousin likes. Second, scaling a seasoning partnership across 14,000 plus locations is complicated. Ingredient sourcing, consistency, supplier agreements, all of that adds complexity to a machine that runs on simplicity. Third, and this is the cynical one, sometimes a limited time item is designed to be limited. FOMO, or fear of missing out to those of you that shun acronyms, is a real business strategy. Create buzz, drive traffic, let it go, and watch people talk about it for years, which is exactly what's happening right now in this video. The Old Bay Filet-O-Fish probably didn't disappear because people hated it. It disappeared because McDonald's isn't just a restaurant, it's an empire of logistics. And in a logistics empire, deliciousness has to be convenient, scalable, and profitable at the same time. So it becomes what so many McDonald's test items become: a legend, a regional memory, a "you had to be there" sandwich. And maybe someday it comes back, because Lent rolls around every year, and McDonald's knows exactly how to target people who are already thinking about fish. But until then, it lives on in the hearts of Mid-Atlantic fans, and in the painful knowledge that McDonald's once gave them something beautiful and then walked away like it was nothing, which might be the most McDonald's thing possible. So what do you think? And did you ever try the Old Bay Filet-O-Fish? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from Weird History Food.